Throughout the last couple of years, it is no secret that children's programming have spanned quite a large spectrum of human emotion, and it's a common understanding that as time has gone by, the target demographic have only grown more and more mature in the face of the odd and disturbing. Because of this oversaturation, it might be hard for most people today to imagine the impact even the most benign shows could have on children's minds and well-being, especially considering there was a time when there was only a single solitary channel on the telly they really could turn to. In 1969, puppeteers Björg and Arne Mykle cooperated with Norway's only government-owned broadcasting channel, NRK, to create what at surface level was only regarded as a safe break from the usual string of educationally based shows, but which over the years have until recently been remembered for the bizarre and horrifying terror it inflicted on anybody who watched it. And that show's name was Pompel or Pilt. Every comment section to most videos displaying footage from this series essentially revolves around simply how scared or even terrifying the show appeared to young and even adult viewers. So how is it possible that the clean-cut, safely regulated Norwegian syndication could allow this to be shown to thousands of television screens? Follow me on a trip down memory lane's scariest corner and figure out with me why Pompel or Pilt scares us. From the offset, this program, originally referred to as Reparatøren kommer, or The Repairman Are Coming, seems to look like any other children's program airing around that same time. But on closer inspection, one notices several things that, for whatever artistic or budgetary reason, adds up to this insecure feeling that something about its titular characters, Pompel, Pilt, or the world that surrounds them is very, very wrong. As can be seen from the very intro of this show, the viewer is introduced to a dark, unnerving visual style, which even today would probably be considered unusually foreboding, as the two main characters look from opposite sides of the screen, defying gravity with their unnatural movements. The lightness of this opening sequence collides starkly with the background and characters, which in turn augments the feeling of uncertainty upon first viewing. In most puppet shows, the pattern stays mostly the same, with that at least one of the main characters is staying close to a friendly adult, establishing the underlying notion in children's minds that the protagonist, no matter how unnerving the design might be, is still safe to be around. That safety is completely evacuated in Pompel or Pilt. The mostly dark backgrounds, the unexplained location, the sudden changes of scenery make up for an environment completely devoid of familiarity or close connection, turning the seemingly harmless misadventures into bizarre ventures into madness. Similar remarks could also be made of the overarching plot structure. Whereas most children's shows at the time followed more or less a common thread relating today's lesson to whatever events the characters are going through, Pompel and Pilt's attempts to quote-unquote repair any object in the vicinity seems increasingly hopeless in the face of their lack of knowledge, ensuring the children slowly but surely that they hold a thin veil of confidence to mask the fact that they actually don't understand their own environment. The episodic structure of this show is odd, to say the least. Scenes seem to go one after the other without seemingly any connection or continuity. Pompel, the more insisting of the two, tend to fail at every opportunity to fix or correct whatever problem they set out to solve, leading to no line of plot or coherence whatsoever within the confines of each episode. This bizarre plot structure adds to the lack of any form of moral or message in each episode, unlike what was typical in that age of children's programming. However, that wouldn't be too much of a problem at the time if it wasn't for how they were designed. Every character in Pompel and Pilt, from the protagonist to the side characters, are portrayed in a way that only vaguely resembles the natural world. The soulless eyes constantly staring into nothing, the jerky movements and the lack of lip synchronization give off an eerie vibe as the episodes progress, making them resemble dead husks of previous life controlled by forces outside their control. The way the design is contrasted by the buffoonish or cheery voices is another aspect of the show that places it as a whole into the uncanny valley, where their sudden, almost machine-like movements communicate that something is holding them alive, but not necessarily themselves. The children watching this show could, of course, fence that realization off by simply imagining that they are living creatures, but maybe in the same way that their own dolls and toys are real, which is a comforting thought until they meet one of the show's most infamous characters, and that is Gorgon Vaktmäster.
Pompel! Hej, så koselig. Hvor er pilten?
God vaktmester, god dag. Har du noe som skal repareres?
Repareres, ja, revideres, sublimeres.
Gorgon Vaktmäster is a janitor of unknown origins who follows and even stalks Pompel and Pilt on their travels, despite never having anything visible in need of repair. From the first moment anyone sees this character, it's been reported how difficult it is to take one's eyes off his dark, shadow-filled eyelids, his unflinching smile, and erratic behavior. One of which is whenever he hears the word for repairment, reparere, he immediately recites countless words that rhyme with the word, for never any apparent reason or explanation. This could probably best be compared to behavior found among several types of schizophrenia known as word salad, a string of words without any syntactical or grammatical coherence displaying the person's unstable mind. Even Pompel and Pilt themselves cannot seem to comprehend this sudden shift in behavior, and use every opportunity they have to flee from the situation as fast as they can, meaning they realize it's a situation that not even they can fake understanding. This actually turns out to become one of the few running gags through the episodes. A lot of the disturbing aspects of this show has been frequently defended as of being of a more comedic nature than it's actually been credited for, but this couldn't be further from the truth once the so-called jokes within the context of the show actually become examined. While there are occasional breaks with the audience's expectations, such as Pilt seeing if the revolving door is in need of fixing, only to see Pompel disappearing the third round, the look and feel of the show actually demolishes any sense of pacing or timing which could lead to laughter, especially considering the sound design. Everything that happens within the confines of Pompel and Pilt's insane, surreal world occurs unaided by any sense of musical cue or backtrack, leaving an air of dead silence following the duo independent of their actions. In most shows, the use of quietness is used sparingly, to accentuate some important event or to establish a certain atmosphere. But by keeping the background constantly empty, the show can easily unnerve the audience members, tricking them into thinking it's all part of a comedy show, when it all simply does nothing but tickle that part in the viewer's brain when nightmares come from. As the show progresses, this tension does not seem to ease, as Pompel and Pilt find Gorgon Vaktmäster apparently belongs to an extended family, and even has his own child, who, disturbingly enough, has his exact same head, the same grin, now voicing a needy and uncontrollable child. They both try to help the infant as much as they can, but to no avail, leaving them walking away in utter horror. Throughout several times in its collective run on Norwegian television, the show was banned multiple times, every re-airing being met with heated debate and controversy, mostly from worried parents, and sometimes even more worried children. And yet, in a time period where hundreds of children's shows have come and gone, why do we still watch it? Despite only lasting a single season of 5 episodes, Pompel Pilt is still featured on t-shirts, art, and even political debates, which makes one wonder, how can this show last for so long? While most shows die the moment their respective crew has ceased production, Pompel Pilt has, on its own merits, managed to still linger deep within that dark corner of uncertainty in the collective Norwegian subconscious, still lurking for the next generation. At the same time, all of this is managed without the need for far more easily forgotten horror tropes we're all aware of, like blood or jump scares. On its own merits, what started out as a cheap entertainment for a few minutes of television has slowly but surely been remembered by most Norwegians today as a dark but vaguely familiar memory that haunts the viewer long after they turn the screen off.